Hello and welcome into Ansible Deep Dive in Multi-Vendor Networking. This video course is provided to you by orhanergen.net. In this video, we're gonna enable, configure, and monitor a DHCP server interface within the FortiGate. So the first playbook that we have is A254A set DHCP interface. So basically we're gonna just configure an interface same as we did, but in this time we're gonna configure a physical interface, not a loopback, not a VLAN. So we're gonna use the same system interface, so FortiOS system interface, define the parameters, vdom, which is root, state is present, then invoke the configuration that we have. So the name, I'm gonna configure port 3, interface port 3. Why port 3? Because port 3, which is the physical port that is connected to those PCs that we're going to enable the DHCP on, to have those PCs have an IP address and eventually monitor those IP addresses. So port 3, I'm gonna give it a description, specify the vdom again, and as I mentioned before, the sequence is not important regarding the configuration. I'm gonna specify an IP address, so IP 172.16.24.1/24. The allow access is only ping. Register the result, print the result, so just run the playbook. So A254A set DHCP interface. It is changed. You could just verify, go to the GUI itself, do a refresh, just like this. You're gonna see that port 3 have an IP address which is up and running. So that's good. I have configured an interface. Then the second playbook that I have, which is get DHCP. I want to gather the DHCP configuration of the device. So I'm gonna use the configuration facts. I'm having the configuration facts, same as we did. And the selector will be system.dhcp server. If you recall, first we opened this documentation, we saw a lot of the selectors. You could go and see each one of them. So the selector name in this case is system.dhcp, and that's all. So let me run the playbook. A254B get DHCP. I don't think I have a DHCP configuration within my device, so let me expand this one. Yes, it is all, the default one, which is the FortiLink, I think. Yes, it is the FortiLink. So FortiLink, which is the only one that have a DHCP enabled on it. So this is the default configuration. And that's it. So let's go and enable DHCP within port 3. How to do so? In this case, I'm gonna use a configuration module. So as you can see, enabling DHCP, the configuration module will be under the name of FortiOS system DHCP server. The vdom is root, the state is present. I'm gonna invoke a configuration. So system DHCP server. So let's see what is the configuration of the DHCP server. Eventually, there is multiple mandatory configuration within the DHCP server. First, you must give it an ID. So basically, the DHCP server, it is an entry that could have multiple interfaces. So each configuration must have an ID within the DHCP server. So if I just scroll here and check for the ID, you're gonna see that there will be an ID within the configuration of the port itself. So just give it a number. So I give it a number of 20. Just make sure that this ID is not used. In my case, it is not used because I didn't do any configuration, only the default one. Then you're gonna specify the interface that you will enable DHCP on. So it is port 3. Then you're gonna specify the IP range. So you're gonna specify a start IP and an end IP. So one will say, why did you specify an end IP before a start IP? As I mentioned before, sequence is not important, and eventually the documentation of the Ansible FortiOS collection, it is alphabetic, so the E before the S. You could just do it the opposite, it will not take any issue. So the configuration that I have, so the start IP is 172.16.24.100, the end IP, which is the same. So I will just provide one IP. You could provide two IP, so you could just type here 200, and that's it. And also you must specify an ID for this configuration, because in the IP range you could have multiple ranges, so maybe from 50 to 60, from 100 to 200, so each one have its own ID, so just give it a number and that's it. The net mask is /24, the gateway, which is the gateway of the interface itself, 172.16.24.1. I will provide only two DNS server, the quad 8, which is the Google, the quad 1, which is the Cloudflare, and the status will be enabled because by default the DHCP server is disabled within the interface. So let me just print, so let me run the playbook A254C enable DHCP. Let me rerun the first playbook. Let me rerun the playbook of A254B get DHCP. Yes, I want to have the DHCP. Maximize it. You're gonna see multiple output. So if you could just filter it. Yes, this is the one that I want. If you could see it, the IP, the name, the DNSs, everything is configured. If you want to verify, just go into the web GUI, open port 3, just open it. You're gonna see that the DHCP server configuration is happening inside the interface. So DHCP server, the range, the net mask, default gateway, DNS, and the lease time. And of course, the description of the interface. So let's go back into Eve topology, run one of those virtual PCs and have an IP address. So click on them, just type DHCP, DORA, discover, offer, request, and acknowledge. Yes, CCNA level, everything good. DORA is working. You have this IP address, everything went good. So show IP is good. Pinging the gateway, 172.16.24.1, pingable, everything good. This PC have an IP address, so this is good. So one of the most challenging thing that I found in the FortiGate, if you enable DHCP server, there is no tab within the GUI until now, maybe in the future they will have, to get you the leases. I don't know the MAC address of this PC. I don't know the host name, the lease time, what is the status. You must go into the terminal itself, type a command to get those information, and this is not helpful. But in the API, but in the Ansible, we have this capability, which is to monitor it. So before we do the monitor, we must have one thing, is getting the DHCP ID. The issue is, when you want to do the monitoring, you must have the DHCP ID. So the DHCP ID is 20 because you already configured it, if you recall, 20. So one thing to do is having the configuration which hold the ID of a 20 only. So how to do so is using the selector and the params. So in each time we collect the configuration, we are now in A254D get DHCP ID, we are just specifying the selector, same as we did in get DHCP. And this time I'm using another thing, which is the params. Now I want to have the configuration based on an ID, so only the configuration that have the ID of 20 will be gathered. So let me run this playbook and see what I have. So Ansible playbook A254D get DHCP by the ID, so only the configuration of the created DHCP with an ID of 20 will be gathered. As you can see here, there is no the default FortiLink configuration, only the configuration that you invoked within the ID of 20. So this is one approach. Now let's use this one into the last playbook that we have. So A254E monitor DHCP. You could filter it, but I'm using the generic one because I only have one lease. So there is no main object of filtering. I only have one lease. So the monitor facts, which is selecting the system DHCP. In this case, I'm using this one. This is a new module, which is monitor the facts, not configuration facts. Because if you recall, there are configuration facts, monitor facts, and I think log facts. Now I'm using the monitor because it's like a real-time status of the system. So monitor facts, system DHCP. Let me run the code. A254E. As I mentioned, the leases are not, the DHCP leases are not configuration. It is just, you know, a monitor thing, status thing. So maximize it. You could have only one lease, which is this, 43, the IP address, the MAC address of the PC that I had. I think this is the MAC address ending with .06. Yes, it is the virtual PC. And of course, you could filter it by the DHCP ID, which is 20. You could do a filter. It is leased, the type IPv4. So in this video, we learned how to configure, enable the DHCP, and of course, monitor the DHCP server leases. So that's all for this video. See you in the next one.